Hi, this is Hannah Rubenstall of Fanciful Spaces doing a video for Kraftgali. Today I am playing with some stamps from Concord and 9th that you can get in the Kraftgali store. I'm playing with their unicorn stamp set and the Polkadot Turnabout stamp set. And before I go too much further, I need to apologize for the blue ink on my hands. My availability for creating videos is limited, and I had the moment and didn't realize that I had blue writing on my hand when I started. So there you go. All right, let's get going. In the bio, or in the links in the description of the video, I'm going to put a link to a Justine Hovey video where she shows how to make the X on the Turnabout stamp, which is part of the Concord and 9th instructions on the back of the envelope. But Justine does a lot to help educate and teach you what you need to use. I'm also going to be using some Catherine Pooler blue inks. It's a boy, Fiesta Blue, and Something Borrowed. I am very partial to blue, and I love them a lot. For the fourth color, I'm going to be using some embossing, some silver embossing. So here we go. I also wanted to take a moment to talk about my lining up. I did halfway through start realizing that my stamp was not stamping in the appropriate grid order. I wasn't sure what I was going to do about it, and I decided just to roll with it. I actually really love the look of it, the finished look of it. I have a similar card that I created in oranges that is a perfect dot, and this one just strikes me as being better, if you ask me, because of its randomness. It does feel more I'm going for a unicorn in the clouds, and it does feel a little bit more mystical. You can see here what I'm talking about. All right, now I've stamped the unicorn from the Concord 9th Unicorn Awesomeness stamp set. It has a corresponding die set, which I will also be using, but this is the unicorn. I stamped him using the Brutus Monroe detail ink in Raven. It's quickly become one of my favorite inks to stamp with. However, I have found that I need to heat set it for it to work with my Copic markers. Memento Tuxedo Black also works just fine. I am using B16, B24, B52, and B41 for the unicorn's body. Now, I had colored another one of these unicorns using the neutral grays, and I colored it all in one go, but because I'm using darker colors than I'm normally used to using, I went ahead and did it just worked in sections. It worked really, really well for me. I also relied very heavily on the colorless blender because the colorless blender helped blend some of those transitions, and it also provided a dappled look, a lot of extra texture to the horse. After I colored it in and I went over it with my colorless blender, I then went back in with some of my darker colors, the B16 and occasionally the B24, just to darken some of those shadows that I lost. So I tried using some silver delicata ink to add some shine to the unicorn's horn and the hooves. And it just wasn't working for me. Sometimes it works super great, and sometimes I just don't have the patience. And I said, I just opened up a new bottle of Wink of Stella. Let's go to town with that. And once I did that, I started coloring the tail, which I used N4, N2, and NO4. All right, here I am taking the die from the unicorn dies and lining it up around my colored unicorn. If you are new to stamping and die cutting, washi tape is your friend. There are several different tapes that you can use to adhere that die down. You do not want it shifting in your die cutting machine. Washi tape is very inexpensive and readily available in any craft store. It happens to be what I use and love. Okay, now that my unicorn is cut out, I also use the cloud die from the same die set in order to cut a white piece of cardstock and a piece of vellum. The vellum sort of softens the background look and it sort of negates the silver shine from my silver embossing powder, which helps bring the focus of my card to the unicorn. I spent a lot of time coloring this guy. I mean, 20 minutes maybe? I fast forwarded it on the video for you, so I don't want to lose him at all. So I just want my focus to be on the unicorn, hence why there is the vellum. I wanted to use the Your Awesomeness rivals that of unicorn sentiment that came in the stamp set, and I knew I wanted it in the top right corner, so I futzed around trying to figure out how low everything was going to have to go, and ultimately what I decided was, why am I messing with all this? Let's stamp it where I want it to go and take it from there. So I stamped it with the Brutus Monroe detail ink in Raven, and then I went ahead and used my embossing buddy and used the Brutus Monroe embossing ink, which I super duper love, and I used some Wow clear embossing powder. I have gobs of it. So before I go try another brand's clear embossing powder, use what you have. So I have tons of it. So that's what I've done. Now here I'm taking that Silver Delicata ink and I'm running it along the edge of this card panel. Doing something along the edges, to me, just gives it a finished look. I also used it on the white cloud die on the tops because clouds have silver linings. It wasn't quite as vibrant as I wanted it on there, so I used my brand new Wink of Stella. Super amazing in person. And then I used some more of that Brutus Monroe embossing powder. It's called Sterling that I used along the edges of my blue card base. Excuse me, my blue card panel. Now it's just a matter of trimming down that vellum and adhering everything. I used my favorite tape runner to adhere the white puffy cloud to the vellum. And I used some Ranger Multi-Matte Medium, which is available in the Kraftgali store, to adhere my unicorn to the vellum. Once all of that was dry, I could take that same Ranger Multi-Matte Medium and adhere the vellum behind the unicorn to that polka dot paper. It's really tricky gluing down vellum. You usually need to find something to hide the adhesive with, and that's how I did it. And voila, this is my card. All right, you can get black memento ink plus these really awesome Concord 9th stamp and die sets from Kraftgali, as well as silver embossing powder. I will put links for the Catherine Pooler ink in my bio, and I hope I have inspired you, and I hope you have a great day.